I am Robbie Sweeble. I am the Vice President of Professional Services, and I work for Sourcepass. Throughout the entire engineering and project management office inside of professional services at Sourcepass, we have over hundreds of years of experience implementing and executing any type of IT-related project, and we really use that expertise to make our decisions and really understand what we are implementing.
My name is Zachary Saginario. I'm one of the infrastructure engineering managers here at Sourcepass, and I work for our VP of Professional Services, Robbie Sweeble. There's a certain satisfaction inherent in performing very difficult, labor-intensive work that has a high risk of, causing loss of business or major disruption if it's done improperly. But you don't do it improperly. You do it properly. You mitigate the risks. You build a good plan. You execute on that plan, and you manage to do it with excellence. And if you can walk away from that project and the client is very happy and they didn't have many issues, if any at all, and you successfully transform their environment, there's a satisfaction in there that you can't really get in a lot of other places.
I have 3 teams that work underneath me. I have my infrastructure engineering team, I have my cloud engineering team, and I have my project management office team.
The engineering team tackles a lot of stuff. Predominantly, it's a lot of firewalls, switches, access points, desktops, and servers. But it can also go outside of that. I usually summarize it more as we can do pretty much anything that's not like cabling, security, or access control, like implementations. We usually rely on vendors for those. But anything that's not those things, we typically do. On my engineering team, we currently have 5 engineers, but I'm currently hiring for a 6th.
We have 3 engineering teams, 2 infrastructure teams, and 1 cloud team. And there's about 20 engineers total across all of those teams. Yeah, our cloud team really focuses on anything that's quote unquote in the cloud. So that could be Microsoft 365 services, Azure services, a little bit of Google, a little bit of AWS, but pretty much anything that's in the cloud today and fully remote, that's what our cloud engineering team does. So they do email migrations, server migrations to Azure, Intune implementations, iPhone, iOS, Android, anything along those lines, that's what our cloud team takes care of. Our infrastructure team, like Zach said, will take care of anything physical on the client side. Firewall switches, WAPs, servers, desktops, anything along those lines is what our infrastructure team takes care of. They're a little bit more regional and focused, so that way our Sourcepass branded employees can go ahead and go on site to those client locations. Yeah, our project managers work hand in hand with our project engineers and our engineering managers to make sure that they have the right resources to go ahead and execute whatever project that they have. They work really closely with our clients to make sure that they are kept informed, updated, and scheduled along the way. So they do all the scheduling with the client, make sure that they have availability for us to do whatever it is that they need to do. Maybe it's an outage window, maybe it's an on-site window, maybe it's a cutover window, and they keep the client updated and informed all along the way. So they'll be sending status updates, weekly reports, ad hoc calls. If there's a cutover, they'll kind of create the bridge line that the client can call into. If there's a problem, they'll be sitting on that line watching for any comms. So their real purpose is to make sure that the client is kept informed, updated, and that the project is moving along all along the way. So that way the client is really informed to what's going on. Yeah, our mission statement here in ProServe is exactly what Sourcepass says, an IT experience that clients love. And so how we kind of define that here in the professional services team is we've understood that clients love to be communicated with, they love to know what's going on, they love to know what is happening in their environment, and they love to make sure that updates are happening. They also love to know that a highly qualified, highly experienced engineer is actually going ahead and tackling that work. So we have over probably 100 years of experience points total across all our engineers to make sure that, they are prepping, planning, and executing and following up on any project that they do. So we really do spend a lot of time in what we call our prep phase of a project, where the team is scouting out the environment, making sure that whatever they are going to implement, the client understands that these are going to be the consequences of the implementation, and this is what to expect during the implementation and after the implementation. So we really try to guide our clients through this experience with the professional services team. More often than not, we're implementing new technologies that the clients never experienced before. So we are really trying to handhold and walk our clients through this new world that they're embarking on. If it's going to change something for their end user base, we really try to put guides together that they can disseminate to their end users, saying, hey, this is what's going to be happening with the environment. This is what to expect. This is the change that you're going to have. This is especially important to us when we are rolling out any type of security implementations across the client, because by nature, security is going to restrict something that somebody was used to before. So we really try to explain to our clients and make sure they understand, hey, this is how you used to work. This is how you're going to work in the future. And hey, you know what? We're going to be there for you after this implementation to make sure we can resolve anything, help out your end user base. And so we really do take how the client is interacting with our project to heart to make sure that the client and their end users really, really have a good experience with us and understand what we are doing along the way.
We just recently had a great example of this where a client came to us with a question about upgrading their internet to a 2 gigabit circuit. And apparently they were given an offer where it would have been cheaper than their current one. And they came to, Sourcepass and said, hey, should we do this? Is this doable? And I had a relationship with this client and I saw it come through and I knew their environment already. And I knew that they would not be able to do this and actually see the benefits of it. So I took some time and volunteered to get with them, go through their environment, see what it would take to actually do it, and see if it made sense for them. And through that process, we ended up creating an infrastructure project for them to revamp their entire network. They had a bunch of gear that needed to be replaced, firewall, switches, access points, the whole nine, since 2020, roughly. And we ended up transforming their entire infrastructure. It's all simplified, it's all cleaner. One of the goals we actually had in mind when we were doing this build out was also trying to get them under a single pane of glass for all of the equipment, because they kind of had a hodgepodge before, and that could result in longer support resolution times with our service team. So by getting them under a single pane of glass, not only did we do a bunch of cleanup on the back end in order to make sure that their network was simpler and easier to work with, but we also consolidated it into a single portal so that our service team could actually have faster resolution times and possibly save them some money down the line, but also just save them some frustration. And this also provides a nice template for them to use with their upcoming project where they're going to be building a new satellite office. So we have a perfect template that we can apply to the next one that has been proven and relied upon in the project we just executed. So there are several ways that the engineering team works to ensure that things don't go off the rails. One of the first things we do at the start of a project is have an internal kickoff call. We get all the stakeholders involved. We get our solutions team on there, we get our client strategy team on there, we get our project manager on there, and we get our engineer on there. We have our PMOs involved in order to make sure that all of the ducks are in a row for scheduling and expectations. We have our engineer on there to cover the technical aspects and present any questions or any red flags they might have encountered when they did their initial scope review. And then the two people that were involved in the creation of that scope, the client strategy side and the solution side, are there on the call to provide any insights about, hey, when we did our initial recon during the scope creation, we assumed this or we saw this and that's why we wrote this. If anything's unclear, if there are any risks that our engineer identifies that might contradict the vision of the scope, this all gets addressed from frame one during that internal kickoff call. And once everyone's aligned, only then do we proceed to the client kickoff call where we actually start the project. We already have an internal idea of what the project execution is supposed to look like. And then we pass that to the client. We start establishing our communications. While the PMO typically handles a lot of the cadence, a lot of the technical aspects of those communications rely on the engineers. So the engineers are constantly in touch with the PMO in order to make sure that they're providing the necessary information in order to make those communications happen. And also, be the ones to spot any potential issues that might impact the client experience during the project so that those can be shared and addressed. Furthermore, once the client kickoffs has happened, typically preparations start, and that's where we get into our pre-project discovery. We start digging into everything. We start looking at, for example, on like a firewall swap. We want to make sure we understand fully what their firewall is doing, make sure that the firewall we selected to replace it is an adequate replacement, both performance-wise but also feature-wise. Not every firewall is created the same. Some have different feature sets. You got to make sure that everything lines up. All of this stuff is looked at and addressed as soon as possible, as early as possible, because the sooner we can catch it, the sooner we can fix it. And after that, it's just down to, creating a consistent plan for implementation, following that plan, executing it, documenting it very well, and then making sure to hand off that documentation to our service team. We actually have a process to communicate with our service team and show them the documentation we created for the project. So there's an actual handoff internally to make sure that everyone is synced up when that project comes to close. So everyone is on the same page, everyone's aware of what's happened, and in an ideal circumstance, everyone's happy.
The secret sauce that we implement in our projects and what we bring to the table is really a client love. And what I try to teach to my team is treat every network like it's your own. Treat every experience like it's your actual own firewall that you're implementing. So it's really handled with a lot of care and a lot of love, and everybody's acting like this is their own personal thing that they're implementing. And when you're doing something like that, you're always going to make it the best. When you're really treating like everything like it's your own and that you really have ownership of it, then it comes with pride, and it comes with making sure that you are delivering the best thing that you could possibly do, because everybody always takes pride in their own work and in their own network. So when you bring that to clients, you could really see how that echoes to how we run projects in Sourcepass, is that care and that love and that client experience is really taken to heart. The
passion in our engineering team is very visible, and it's one of the most common pieces of feedback we get from clients is they feel that passion, that attention, that care in how the end result is. It's not just an implementation to the team. They enjoy the work. They enjoy doing a good job. They want to do a good job. And that's the secret sauce, in my opinion, is caring so deeply about doing a good job and making sure that we are giving the client a good experience.
So how does ProServe ensure that we deliver an experience clients love? We really take into account client feedback. It is one of our greatest sources of opportunity here in professional services. One of the things I implemented when I kind of took the helm of ProServe is a NPS feedback survey on every single project that we do. I read every single one. The team reads every single one, whether it's good or bad. We really take that feedback to heart. So if the client loves it, how do we repeat that on every single project? This client said that they loved the communication that Sourcepass provided throughout the entire experience. Great. That is awesome feedback. I'm going to take that to heart. I'm going to make sure that we are providing that communication experience across every single project. The client gave us feedback and said, hey, I had a little bit of problems with this project. We're going to go ahead and work to fix that on every single project that we have. So we really take the client feedback to heart and really take on how do we take that feedback and execute that into the future. So anytime we ever stumble across something inside of professional services, we actually create guides and templates and information out to the team like, hey, somebody experienced this one time. this is how we're going to enact to make sure it never happens again, or that it always happens again. Maybe it was a good thing. Maybe we ran across a engineering deficiency in something. Hey, we actually found out that Meraki's can't do this, right? But this is your workaround for it. We really make sure that we disseminate that information ongoing throughout the entire team so that everybody can know that, all right, if I run across this problem, I know how to fix it in the future. So we really do try to ensure that the next project is always going to be better than the previous project.
Our engineers are very experienced, and one of the ways that they best show that experience is in recognizing risks. Risk mitigation is one of the most important things that the engineering team does, because on the technical front, they're the ones responsible for the implementation. They're the ones that are going to be aware of the consequences of what we're doing, and downtime tolerance and risks are always front of mind and for our clients, and that makes it front of mind for our engineers. So the number one thing they do is take a look at what we're doing and say, what is this impact going to be to the client? And secondly, what risks does that present to the client and their ability to perform their day-to-day work? The second thing is the team is very synced up. Pretty much all of professional services talks at some point. On my team, we talk daily, but across the wider professional services, we have group chats that we can go to in a pinch if someone needs help. There is no fear asking questions in professional services. It's not a thing. If you need help, there are several different channels you can go. We have an established hierarchy for like a baseline of asking assistance. Go to your engineering manager and then go to the wider team. But in an emergency, there's always someone you can go to for help. Someone who's always willing to help. It doesn't matter what time of day. It doesn't matter what day of the week. If you need help, someone on professional services will be there to help you. And I think that inspires a lot of confidence in our engineers to do a good job, mixed in with the aforementioned risk mitigation.
I think one of the biggest benefits that Sourcepass has is the separation between the professional services project execution and our service team's ability to provide day-to-day support with clients. We get to solely focus on project work and making sure that we're scheduling with the client. That means sole dedication to whatever it is that you purchased and that you are trying to get implemented. We're not going to get distracted with a client server that's down. We're not going to get distracted with a password reset. We just get to focus on executing the most perfect project that we can do for you. A lot of other small MSPs, they split responsibilities between the service desk and the project work. So the project engineer might be trying to prep a firewall, but a server crashed somewhere else, and he's got to switch up focus and go to that. Our team gets to hone in on what are they implementing, and that allows the team to build upon their skills every single time. So every project's going to be better than the last one because they are constantly doing the same thing over and over and over. One of the things that attracted me to Sourcepass when I was just a lowly engineer was the selling point that, hey, guess what? When you come to Sourcepass, you just get to focus on project work. And that made me jump with joy. All I ever wanted to do was project work. What I love is project work. You're telling me I get to focus on projects all day long? Awesome. That is what I love to do. That is what I want to focus on. I want to make sure that I am completely transforming this client's environment, and that is my sole focus, is making sure that this client's environment gets to be transformed with no hiccups. It really is a distraction when you have a lot of tickets coming in, a lot of volume that you got to keep switching focus on back and forth. A lot of the projects that we implement really do require dedicated focus and a dedicated person to really review the environment. A lot of our prep is even just days of prep, scouting the environment, making notes, understanding what you're going to implement and what you're going to change. You can't do that if you're focusing on everyday service tickets and resetting passwords and resetting broken printers. So we really do get to focus on making sure that the thing that we're implementing is implemented correctly and perfectly.
Trying to consolidate communications through a single person. Most clients already do this, but some don't. And there's always been a big difference in the quality of the execution when if there are complaints with performance issues, for example, in the environment during the implementation. If all of those individual users are reaching out or if it's being funneled through a singular person. One of the reasons this can be so problematic is some of these complaints about performance in this example might just be user error with using their line of business software or their tools. And Sourcepass is especially on the professional services side, we might not have the familiarity to be able to differentiate that. And we're obviously going to be coming from the lens of our implementation. So when you fail to designate a stakeholder internally to consolidate all those communications, you remove one of the stopgaps of those issues. It muddies the water a lot, and it can cause the professional services team to end up getting, kind of stuck in a rut, like responding to this and this and that, and slowing down the execution, which, depending on what kind of situation we're looking at, could further any pain from the implementation. The smoothest implementations have always been ones in which we have a single stakeholder at the client that is consolidating communications and any issues or complaints or compliments from the staffing, and then they are consolidated with a single resource from the professional services side, either our engineer on an engineering only engagement or our project manager on a proper full-fledged project. By having it consolidated on both ends, it smooths out a lot of the communications. It makes sure that both sides are removing extra noise that the other side might not be able to initially catch, and it just makes for a smoother experience for everyone.